Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, same thing happened here. It's lost the focus completely. We'll have to be more careful tomorrow night. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Okay? Okay. Okay, we're just about there. So let's say now. I guess it's okay. I'd like to be, slightly further that way. Hare Krishna. Okay. Did you move it a bit? Yeah. Or did it move back? Okay, I guess it's all right. And I guess the focus is okay. Pretty close. It's on manual now, is it? Yeah. And this one too. All right, devotees, welcome to our 32nd session on Nectar of Devotion. We're going on to chapter 17, which is about ecstatic love or bhava. It's also very elevated subject matter. Okay. All right, yes. So, Hare Krishna. Let us begin with our dedication to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Nana Shastra Vicharanai Kanipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopalako. For my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they're honored all over the 3 worlds, and they're worth taking shelter of because they're absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presta Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadesha Tarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Yes, so devotees, we only have another tonight and 2 more nights of instruction on Nectar of Devotion. And we are now reaching the most elevated and exalted levels of pure devotional service. So tonight and tomorrow night, we're going to be discussing Bhava Bhakti. Bhava Bhakti means the beginning of perfect devotional service. Tonight, tomorrow night, and then Friday, we'll be discussing Prema Bhakti, Krishna Prema, devotional service and pure love of God. So even the very extraordinary things which we were studying, particularly last night, Tuesday, and the night before, Monday, they were not on the level of perfection, actually. It's a little hard to grasp that, but it's the case. But now, when the devotee comes to the level of bhava, that means they have entered perfection. There are degrees of perfection, but bhava means that the devotee is perfect. It's just there's perfect, more perfect, most perfect, even more than most perfect, and one could go on with different ideas like that. All right, so let us, though, to begin, let us have a look at the very first paragraph here. By the process of executing regulated devotional service, one is actually elevated onto the transcendental stage, beyond the material modes of nature. At that time, one's heart becomes illuminated like the sun. The sun is far above the planetary systems, and there's no possibility of its being covered by any kind of cloud. Similarly, when a devotee is purified like the sun, from his pure heart, there is a diffusion of ecstatic love, which is more glorious than the sunshine. Only at that time is the attachment to Krishna perfect. Spontaneously, the devotee becomes eager to serve the Lord in his ecstatic love. At this stage, the devotee is on the platform of Uttama Adhikari, perfect devotion. Such a devotee has no agitation from material affections and is interested only in the service of Radha and Krishna. Now, so that is sort of a definition of Bhava Bhakti. But just to clarify and make it a little more pointed, perhaps, I want to read a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 23, verse 5. Yes. And this is going to be part of the first special question, which is coming up just now also. And this is you could say, anyway, a very focused, pointed definition of what is bhava and the different elements that make up bhava, given by Lord Chaitanya himself to Srila Sanatana Goswami. So here we are. Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryangsu Samyabhak Ruchibis Chittamasrin Ya Krid Asal Bhava Uchyate. When devotional service is situated on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, it is like a ray of the sunlight of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and it is called bhava, or emotion. Yes, so there are a few points there. We're going to analyze the verse in a bit of detail in a minute. Yes, so yeah, we'll do that. We'll do a little analysis of the verse, but let us just note there are certain components, you could say. First component is that what is bhava? The primary characteristic or characteristics are Shuddha Sattva. It means the devotee has come to the level of pure transcendental goodness, and the Supreme Lord's Shuddha Sattva potency, his internal potency, has entered the heart of the devotee. Then it is prema surya angsu. Angsa, of course, if you remember, we have been discussing that, have we? Oh, it was in the Bhagavatam classes. Anyway, angsa means a limb or a part. Yes. So prema surya angsa, a part of the sunlight of prema. What's a part of the sunlight of prema? It's like the ray of the sun. A little ray from the great sun, you could say the great sun of Krishna prema, enters the heart of the devotee. So those are the main characteristics. And then secondary characteristics are that the heart becomes softened. And it becomes softened and it experiences various tastes, or it becomes softened by the various tastes. So let's have a look at those things and just see what they are. What are we really talking about here? And for those of you doing Bhakti Shastri, here is the special question, and it's specifically about this very verse which we've just quoted, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 23, verse 5. Please note that if you're doing the Bhakti Shastri. You should note it even if you're not. It's the definition of prema, of bhava, given by Lord Chaitanya himself. So it's something very special. And it's Madhya Lila, chapter 23, verse 5. Right. So, okay. And the question, what is the question? Well, you just have to basically learn the different parts of that translation. That's what you have to do. Yes. Should pretty much learn the verse. Okay, so like we said, the primary characteristic or characteristics, characteristic basically, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. It means the internal potency of the Lord enters the heart of the devotee. Even on the level of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, the internal potency has not exactly, not in this sense, or certainly not to this degree, entered the heart of the devotee. Of course, the internal potency is helping us all. That's how we're practicing Krishna consciousness. We're not just under the control of Maya any longer. We are influenced by the internal potency and protected by the divine internal potency. But in this case, the idea is the internal potency floods the heart of the devotee. And when that happens, it affects the devotee and even the physical body of the devotee in very amazing ways. For example, when the internal potency contacts the element water within the body, our bodies, we heard at school, 70 or something like that % water. This is what they say. So when that water is contacted by the internal potency, then the ecstatic symptom of crying, tears, comes. But they're not like the tears, our tears, you could say, or the tears we have cried in the past. You know, everyone goes through a crying period as children. So we all know what crying is. But now this crying, because it's the internal potency stimulating the element water from the body, just like, for example, further on in Nectar of Devotion, there's a description of Daruka fanning the Lord, but being so ecstatic that tears were pouring from his eyes. But they were pouring from his eyes so much he couldn't see. And the Lord had moved in the meantime while the fanning was going on. But Daruka's still standing there, but he couldn't see that the Lord has moved because he was blinded by the tears. Or in a very extreme case, Lord Chaitanya in Ratha Yatra, the devotees surrounding him became saturated by the tears which squirted from his eyes. Yes. So like this, Shuddha Sattva, the pure internal potency of the Lord, enters the heart of the devotee and floods the heart. And therefore, bhava is a very overwhelming stage in which the devotee is more or less permanently overwhelmed, or at least very regularly overwhelmed. So now, it is, the second characteristic is prema surya angsu. It is a ray from the sun of prema. In other words, bhava is prema. It is prema. It is not something else. It is definitely prema. But it is just a little ray as opposed to the full sun of prema. So examples are given in that regard to illustrate that point, those points. What is bhava, what is prema in that regard? That early in the morning, it's dark, but then gradually the sun starts coming, but it's still beneath the horizon. But you can see along the horizon there is some light. This is like bhava. You cannot see the sun because the sun is prema. If you could see the sun, if you could see actual prema, like the whole thing, it would be prema. But this is just like a symptom of the very beginnings of prema showing itself. Just like how the sky becomes lightened, or the horizon even, when the sun is just in the process, it's going to show itself shortly. So compare that manifestation of the sun on beneath the horizon, but some light just shining. Compare that to midday. Midday, when the sun is there and it's just, we are talking about something else altogether, aren't we? This is the difference. And therefore, bhava, even though it is prema, it's distinguished from the stage of the manifestation of full prema because it's considerably less. It's considerably less. Therefore, we talk about the stage of bhava and then the stage of prema, and not just the stage of prema in different degrees. It's worthwhile to differentiate them from each other. Yes, so then there are when we talk about the Shuddha Sattva energy, potency descending and entering the heart of the devotee, it is particularly two parts. We know there are three parts to the internal potency. There's Sandhini, then there's Samvit, and then there's Hladini. Eternity is Sandhini, then knowledge is Samvit, and bliss is Hladini. So, but those are the effects. Eternity, knowledge, and bliss, they're like the effects, the results. But the actual energies themselves are named Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini. Okay, but particularly when the Shuddha Sattva potency now enters and floods and just drowns the heart of the advanced devotee, it is particularly the Samvit and Hladini potencies, means the potency of knowledge or consciousness, and the pleasure potency, or you could say devotional potency of love. So these particularly flood the heart and combine together, and the result is the devotee is just in bhava, which translates as ecstasy, ecstatic love. And actually, devotees, there are different bhavas. There are different types of ecstasies. If or when we get a chance, we can just briefly go through them. It's interesting. It's interesting. But at this point, we must continue on. So now there are two secondary characteristics of bhava as per that verse. Yeah, 4 characteristics were mentioned. Shuddha sattva, prema suryangsu, and then that the first of the secondary characteristics is that bhava softens the heart, softens the heart. And then that it softens the heart by various tastes. It softens the heart by various tastes, and it softens the heart, and there are different tastes, various tastes. So you can see them together or independent of each other. Now, soften the heart. You may remember there's a famous verse in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which we always quote, always pretty much, when we do a japa, like a japa retreat, japa sort of program. There's a famous verse. It is Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 3, verse 24. And at least the translation is, certainly that heart is steel-framed, which, in spite of chanting the holy name with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place and tears fill the eyes and hairs stand on end. So when we are chanting and these ecstatic emotional manifestations, tears filling the eyes, hairs standing on end, when those are not happening, then we should understand this is because our hearts are steel-framed, means they are not soft. Bhava softens the heart. But our hearts, if, like this, as we said, this indicates, if the symptoms do not come, they indicate that our hearts are steel-framed, hard. And what hardens the heart is generally, at least if you've been practicing for some time, but the heart is still hard and these ecstasies are not really coming, then what hardens the heart is offenses. Yeah. So we're not going to go into that subject of offenses and everything. But the thing is, on the level of bhava, the heart becomes softened. And that means, or that indicates, that certain ecstatic symptoms manifest. When tomorrow night, we assume, when we study the 18th chapter, then uh, there are certain symptoms. There are 9 symptoms, actually, very important symptoms of bhava, which we will be discussing in some depth. Yes. So the heart, although bhava is famous for these emotional symptoms like what we read, tears filling the eyes, hair standing on end. And Prabhupada, well, not actually here, is it? Prabhupada says, oh, it's in Nectar of Devotion. Where is it? Anyway, it's somewhere there. But Prabhupada says, in this connection, there's a statement in the Tantras that ecstasy is the first symptom of pure love for the personality of Godhead. And in that state, one is sometimes found shedding tears or shivering. Okay, so now softening means that these different symptoms start manifesting, and to different degrees. It's not described in this part of Nectar of Devotion, but in the next section, the southern side of the ocean, that there are 3 stages of softening in which the heart manifests 3 degrees of emotion and devotion. The first stage is called or described as being like when the heart is like lac. If you understand lac, you know, the red stuff which actually the gopis put on their feet. But in olden days, people would use it for making official stamps on letters and things. They would use lac, and then with the stamp, you would stamp into this kind of soft red stuff, and an impression would be there, and the lac would go hard, so it would be like the official insignia would be there in this red lac. I hope you know what I'm talking about. So that lac, normally it's solid, it's hard, but if it's heated, it starts melting. It has to be heated to a moderate degree, otherwise, you know, it won't actually melt. But if you heat it to, a fairly, like I don't know how many degrees, not like boiling water, but, reasonably warm to hot, it melts. So there's a heart like lac, means the devotee is not so much advanced, but under certain circumstances, the heart softens. Then the next heart, more advanced heart, is the heart of butter. Butter is also hard. But when there's some heat, and it doesn't, not as much as you need for lac, but when there's some heat, then butter starts melting. Well, it starts softening first of all, and then it starts melting. So there's a heart like butter, means the devotee is more advanced, and ecstasy will manifest, not all the time, but more easily than the devotee with the heart of lac. And then there is the heart of nectar. And nectar is always liquid. And this is the heart of the devotee on an elevated level of Krishna prema. The heart is always in a state of deep, deep emotion, and visibly such. All right, so anyway, softening of the heart, and then it gives rise to various tastes. There are three, interestingly enough. First is, it's called Prapti Abhilash. Abhilash meaning desire. Prapti Abhilash means the taste or desire. Taste or desire, here they're being used synonymously. The desire to achieve Krishna. Then second is Anukulya Abhilash, the desire to please Krishna with various services. And then Soharda Abhilash, the desire to be close at heart with Krishna. So these are different tastes or desires, or means like inspirations that the devotee on the level of bhava has. So let's move on. Now, according to the way I've divided things up here, anyway, according to the way I've done it, I say that paragraphs 2 and 3 are a little section together. And what is being discussed there? Types of bhava, different bhavas, just a little bit, and symptoms of bhava, of a devotee having bhava, or being on the level of bhava. So Prabhupada does say, it's sort of almost the middle of the second paragraph. Within the stage of the regulative principles of devotional service, there are two divisions, namely executive and effective. Aha, okay. Executive means activities or things which cause bhava, and effective means those endeavors that result from bhava. I hope that's, it's maybe not quite so clear in the book. Effective portion is called bhava, okay, or ecstasy. Effective. Well, effective, executive and effective. Executive and effective, okay. So the effective portion is called bhava. And the executive is, okay, endeavors that cause bhava and endeavors that result, or things that result, endeavors that result from bhava. Like when we read tomorrow the nine classic symptoms of bhava, they're endeavors that result from the presence of bhava. Yes. So now, let's just read on here in paragraph 2. In this connection, there's a statement in the Tantras that ecstasy is the first symptom of pure love for the personality of Godhead. All right. And in that stage, one is sometimes found shedding tears or shivering. Not always are these symptoms manifest, but occasionally. When King Ambarish was put into difficulty by Durvasa, he began to think of the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus there were some changes in his body, and tears were falling from his eyes. That's in the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam. We won't go into the story, but Durvasa Muni sort of attacked Maharaj Ambarish, who was a great devotee, by sending a demon to kill him. And when Maharaj Ambarish saw that, he simply stood there like this, with his hands in a pranam sort of mudra, and praying to the Lord for mercy, and tears came from his eyes. Those tears are one of the classic emotional symptoms. But as Prabhupada says here at the end of the 2nd paragraph, on the level of bhava, they are there sometimes. They're not there always. On the level of prema, they're often there always. Yeah. The heart like nectar. Yes. So now we go on to from paragraph 4 to 15. I think it's actually the rest. Is it the rest? Let me just check. It's the rest of the chapter. And it's basically all about, from paragraph 4, well, actually, let us just read paragraph 3, because it is important. These symptoms are activities of ecstasy or bhava. They're visible in the shivering of the body and the shedding of tears, and other things. And some other things are even more important, as we'll see tomorrow. But these are sort of famous symptoms. After the outward appearance of these ecstatic symptoms, they stay within the mind, and continuation of the ecstasy is called samadhi. This stage of appreciation becomes the cause of future exchanges of loving affairs with Krishna. Yeah. All right. So now we go on to paragraph 4, which takes us through paragraph by paragraph to the end of the whole chapter. So the question is, the subject matter is, how devotees come to the level of bhava. This is the subject matter, with examples which we'll see as we go through. But first point, that elevation to the stage of ecstasy or bhava is possible in 2 ways. One way is by constant association with pure devotees. The other way is by the special mercy of Krishna, or by the mercy of a pure devotee of Krishna. Now, as a point of clarification, and we'll see how it is like that when we get to the next paragraph, number 5. This first one way is by constant association with pure devotees. Yes, okay. But it actually, what it means is the performance of sadhana bhakti, rigid performance of sadhana bhakti in the association of devotees. Yes, that's the actual point. It's not simply a matter of constant association. It's the serious execution of devotional service in association. And the other one, that's correctly put, special mercy, either of Krishna or of a pure devotee. Now, generally, the rest of the paragraph is making the point that generally Bhava is achieved by the execution of sadhana bhakti, like serious execution of sadhana bhakti in association with pure devotees, generally. Whereas elevation to that stage by the special mercy of Krishna or his devotee, Prabhupada says, is very rare, although it happens. So what can we gather from that? We can gather that we should really execute sadhana bhakti very seriously in the association of devotees. And any mercy which comes, well, that's just wonderful. Prabhupada compares the way of achieving bhava by rigid sadhana bhakti in the association of devotees. He compares it to, in this paragraph, he compares it to going to university to get a degree and working hard, studying and just following the course, and in the end you get your degree. Whereas the second way, just by special mercy, either of Krishna or a pure devotee, this is like not really going to university, but being given an honorary degree in the university. It happens. Some people are given honorary degrees, but they're very rare compared to the number of people who get the degree by the normal process of study, etc. So therefore, we should execute devotional service, sadhana bhakti, very seriously in the company of devotees, and any mercy will be only too happy. Now, let's go to, there's a special question here, and it's in relation to, please note down, Bhakti Shastri devotees, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 24, verse 188. Madhya Lila 24, 188. By the mercy of Krishna and by the association of devotees, one increases his attraction to and intelligence for pure devotional service. Therefore, one gives up everything and engages himself at the lotus feet of Krishna and his pure devotees. So what are you meant to learn here? Well, it's pretty simple. You're meant to learn what is the verse number. That's pretty easy. Madhya Lila 24, 188. Okay, now, another thing to bear in mind, something to bear in mind, please bear in mind. When we talk, we just mentioned sadhana bhakti. When we talk about sadhana bhakti, we are talking about both Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raganuga sadhana bhakti. Yeah, not just one or the other. So, sure, don't tell me. We've got another special question. Look at this. It's getting a bit... Okay, anyway, here's another special question. Note this down. Madhya Lila 2283. Madhya Lila 2283. Okay. Which says, The root cause of devotional service to Lord Krishna is association with advanced devotees. Even when one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, association with devotees is still most essential. Okay. So anyway, you got to learn that, okay, devotees? You got to learn that verse. And we're going to move on because we got to move on. So now we come to paragraph 5, and we can note devotees, that it begins saying, an example of rising to the stage of ecstatic love by executing the regulative principles of devotional service is given in the life story of Narada. And there it describes how Narada explains, well, actually it's in paragraph 5 and paragraph 6, his story is told. And remember, this is an example of coming to bhava by performing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti in the association of advanced devotees. So perhaps you know the story that these Bhaktivedantas, very elevated devotees, came to stay at his mother's place during one rainy season, Chaturmasya time. And 5-year-old Narada served them very nicely, and they blessed him. And as a result, we see, at least at the end of paragraph 6, every morning and evening I heard them while they were singing and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and thus my heart gradually became purified. As soon as I heard them with great attention, the influence of the modes of material ignorance and passion disappeared, and I became firmly fixed in devotional service to the Lord. What does firmly fixed mean in this context? He came to the level of bhava through this regulative activity, this Vaidhi activity of serving those devotees. Then in the next paragraph 7, So this is a practical example of how one can develop to the stage of ecstatic love simply by the association of pure devotees, but actually it's by associating with them and rendering service. Yeah. Then paragraph 8, let's see, what is this now? Well, it's the same point. It's now quoting, this is paragraph 8. This statement is also confirmed in 3rd canto, chapter 25, verse 25, famous verse. Satam prasangan mama virya samvado, bhavanti hritkarana rasayana kata, tajjoshanadashvapa varga vartmani, shradaratir bhaktir anukramishti. That in Nectar of Devotion, the translation there is, my dear mother, when a person is actually in association with pure devotees, the sublime potency of my devotional service can be experienced. So it's the same idea, association with elevated devotees and rendering devotional service. Now we come to paragraph 9, which is interesting. In the Padma Purana, there's a story of a neophyte devotee who, in order to raise herself to the level of bhava, the ecstatic platform, danced all night to invoke the Lord's grace upon her. This is now the example of a devotee. It's still the first category of coming to devotional service, of coming to bhava by serious devotional service. But now this is the example of Raganuga Bhakti. This is Raganuga. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Yes. So like this, through her Raganuga sadhana bhakti, she came to the level of bhava. Then we've still got another 5 or 8 minutes because we started about 8 minutes late. So now we find, let's see, it's still in the 9th paragraph, the paragraph about this girl who danced all night, starts in the Padma Purana. But halfway through that paragraph, it says, this sudden development of it actually starts, sometimes, however, it is found that without undergoing any devotional process, one all of a sudden develops devotion for Lord Krishna. Now, devotees, listen. This is not talking about the girl who danced, because that's part of serious execution of devotional service. Here where it starts, sometimes, however, ideally it should be a separate paragraph, because now the subject is changing to the second type of way in which people can come to the level of bhava, which is special mercy. The girl who danced all night, that's not special mercy. That's Raganuga sadhana. And maybe there were other devotees around also, so that, it wasn't only the service of dancing, but there were other devotees. But here now, starting sometimes, however, we're entering the discussion of people coming to the level of bhava by mercy. Nothing else. Krishna's mercy or pure devotee's mercy. So therefore, sometimes, however, it's found that without undergoing any devotional process, one all of a sudden develops devotion for Lord Krishna. This sudden development of the devotional attitude in a person must be understood as a special mercy of Krishna or of his devotee. And now this is important. This apparently accidental development of ecstatic feelings through the causeless mercy of Krishna or his devotees can be divided into 3 groups. That one comes to the level of bhava simply by someone speaking to you or you hearing some speaking, but through the process of speaking in one way or another, it may simply be someone very elevated, talking about you. You come to the level of bhava. So that now speaking, glancing, and simply by good wishes. These are the 3 ways. So in the 10th paragraph, there's an example of someone coming to the level of bhava simply by speaking. And it's Lord Krishna. Here we have 2 cases of Narada Muni coming to the level of bhava in 2 ways. Haribol, but that's what it is. One is through serving the sages, and here, now it's by Lord Krishna speaking to Narada. And Krishna says, O best of the Brahmins, I wish that you may develop unalloyed devotional service to me, which is full of transcendental bliss and all auspiciousness. And as a result of that speaking of Lord Krishna to Narada, Narada came to the level of bhava. He was maybe already on the level of bhava from when he was a child. Except now, this is, I think, as far as this is in the next lifetime. This is in the next lifetime, when he's already actually Narada Muni. It's not in the lifetime when he was the son of the maidservant. Yeah. So then, look, devotees, in the 11th paragraph, there's a statement about developing ecstatic love towards Krishna simply by glancing. So these inhabitants of the Jangala province, they saw Krishna and they were so affected, they came to the level of bhava. And in the 12th paragraph, this is now heartfelt wishes, because there are these three ways, right? Through speaking, through glancing, and through heartfelt wishes. So now here's heartfelt wishes. Narada expresses his wishes to Vyas. Narada is the guru, of course. Vyas is like the junior, the disciple. You have a son who's the greatest devotee of the personality of Godhead. And I can observe that without any following of the regulative principles of devotional service, he's already come to the level of bhava, basically. So this is through, what is this? Blessings, heartfelt wishes. And in fact, this paragraph 13, the next paragraph, and the last paragraph, they're all examples of people, devotees, coming to the level of bhava through heartfelt wishes. 13, 14, and 15. What did we say? Number 12 is heartfelt wishes, and then 13, 14, and 15 also. In 13, Narada is addressing Yudhisthira, that how Prahlad came to the level of bhava, and it was simply by the grace, means the wishes, the heartfelt wishes, the mercy of Lord Krishna. Wait a minute. No, by the mercy of Narada, actually. By the mercy of Narada. And again, when Prahlad was in the womb of his mother, and Narada preached to his mother, then, as Prabhupada says in the middle of the 14th paragraph, because Narada, an authorized devotee and great associate of the Lord, was desiring auspiciousness for Prahlad, he developed all the characteristics of a high-grade devotee, or in other words, he came to the level of bhava. And the last paragraph, it's about Mrigari, and Parvat Muni is appreciating Narada Muni, that simply by your good wishes, this low-born Mrigari the hunter has become a great elevated devotee of Lord Krishna, or in other words, he's come to the level of bhava. Yes. And then Prabhupada gives a subtle point at the end. This ecstatic love for Krishna can be divided into 5 divisions, which will be described by Sri Rupa Goswami later on. It means there are 5 types of bhavas. There are 5 types of bhavas. If we get time tomorrow, we'll talk about them. So there you go, devotees. Hare Krishna. We have entered the stage of bhava, so to speak. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.